All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bowling Adjustments, where we like to bowl on a pattern and then give you guys our insight and strategies on it. And today we are bowling on the 39-foot Beijing pattern coming up.
So the Beijing pattern, the WTBA Beijing pattern, was revised in 2018. It used to be a little bit more of a shorter pattern. I believe it was like 34, 35 feet. Yeah. Now it's 39 feet, and in my opinion, I think it's the hardest out of all the WTBA patterns that they use. So the characteristics of this pattern is 27 mils, 1.54 to 1.
Which is hard.
Which is almost as close to flat as a pattern that you generally bowl on without bowling on a flat pattern. So like we do, we're going to go ahead, throw some shots, try to figure out where to play. And I don't know how successful we're going to be on this one because it's a pretty hard pattern, but we'll give it a go. You ready?
Let's do it.
Oh, same thing. Yeah.
I think you should play there.
And that's why this pattern is extremely difficult right here.
I really like bowling on this pattern because it is difficult.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. If you miss it to the right, it stays there, and if you think it's on line, it likes to really jump off the spot and go left. That's the one thing I found on this pattern is when the ball hooks, it wants to go left. It's hard to control.
Yeah.
So what about you? What'd you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes these 39-foot patterns so difficult is because you can kind of play everywhere on the lane, excuse me, and there's not really a great place to play. It's kind of like you find where the lane kind of fits your game and you try to make the best shot you can until the lane transitions and maybe some area gets developed. I mean, when you bowl on normal house shots, there's kind of like a roadmap to the pocket. You know, there's all this dry, then it lays in the oil in the middle and just kind of goes to the pocket. With this, you are not guaranteed to hit the pocket by any means.
Yeah.
So
my first shot, I noticed that it hooked immediately. There's a lot of friction. And so my next shot, actually, I stood in the same spot. I just threw it harder. And I noticed it hooked too much again. And then so my next shot, I moved a couple left and I got my ball a little wider of the break point and it stayed there. So my first two, hook, hook, and then the next one stayed there. And that triggers my mind. Ooh.
yeah.
Okay, that doesn't always happen.
Right.
This means they're tough. Kind of changes your whole mindset. And whenever I see that, like where I move left and I open it up a little bit and it sails, okay, there's a couple things you can do. You can actually move right into that out of bounds and try and be a little bit more square, but on this particular pattern, when you do that, that brings in that early friction and you're possibly going to hook. If you move left and open it up, you bring in that out of bounds. So what I like to do when I see that is I like to get my roll as forward as possible. And that just controls the break point down lane. That just controls the reaction of the ball down lane. And it almost at that point, if you get your ball going end over end, you could the goal is to control it, but from there you can play almost where you want to. Like if you're end over end and you like to play left, you can still do that from playing left because you're still controlling the shape of the bowling ball. You can do that playing up five and you can do that. So for me, once I have that end over end roll, I'm probably just gonna move to about 15 at the arrows, not get it too far to the right, but the goal is to kind of keep it in the middle-ish part of the lane, really forward. That way the ball doesn't jump like this, it kind of just goes straight. And you bring in some 10 pins at that point, you bring in, your ball's rolling out, so you bring in some flat 10s at that point. But that's okay, because when they're hard, a 2-0, a 2-10, a 220, those are good games.
That's better than the big forward 2-8-10 reaction.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my thought process going into that, which when I see that in practice, I like it because they're hard. It really tests you.
We don't always get the ball in really hard patterns. And, you know, scoring is relative. So when everyone's scoring low, I mean, guys, there's no 250 reaction right now on this shot. I mean, maybe someone has the magic like rotation and ball that will match up for a game or two, but as these lanes transition, there's not many guys are going to average 220 on this.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, when I see anything pretty much less than 40 feet, I'm going to go to urethane. I'm going to try the purple hammer. And I tried it out to the right, and I threw some gutter balls. I tried kind of getting it out there, and the ball never slowed down enough to start making its motion. And then when I squared up on like a spare shot, I believe, you never saw it read like the front or middle part of the lane. It kind of got to the end of the pattern, and because of how the purple hammer reacts, it just kind of went sideways. So that tells me, like, if that ball, I can't get it to slow down in the front or middle part of the lane, and by slow down I mean respond to the friction, then that tells me the urethane's probably out of play. So I went to reactive. I tried a couple knucklers with like the chaos, like up the lane, maybe keeping my ball speed up, but keeping the same idea, like trying to stay super forward with it. And it was okay. Like, it's probably a 180, 190 reaction if I bowl well. And then I tried some shots left, and I just 2-8-10 right there.
It gets
and you can
tricky
say
at
it's
that
just
point.
hard. And this is honestly, for me personally, this is one of my weakest points, is a 39-foot pattern that's super flat, because what these kind of require is touch.
Yeah.
You got to have touch. So straighter players a lot of times can play in that 10 to 15 range and kind of just throw it and float it up the track, being soft with their hand. When you try to hook it too much on this pattern, that's where it gets a little tricky.
Yeah, because when you get your feet left, you have to open up a little bit, or else it's going to go Brooklyn. You know? And when you open up, you bring in that out of bounds.
Out of bounds, yeah.
So if you're going to play left, you got to figure out a way to kind of just trap it right in front of you, which why that end over end roll will help you, because when it sees that friction in the lane, it's just going to go straight. Yeah. So regardless of where your feet are, the strategy kind of is the same thing. The thing about these flat patterns, though, that's really interesting to me is eventually the way they break down, majority of the time, we end up playing really far left. Getting really far left and really steep with your angles, the later games of a tournament is what you do. So a lot of people like to start there just to get all the nonsense out of the way.
I'm one of them.
If they grind out, because a guy like you like playing left, that's where you're comfortable, you can grind out 2-0 playing left, even though it's probably not the best best thing to do.
It's just a strength of mine.
It simplifies it. It makes you a little bit comfortable. You can pick your spare, shoot 2-0, and you're already in that part of the lane that you're going to get to game 3, game 4 anyway. So your goal is just to grind out the first couple and then be comfortable once it comes to you.
And even though that might not be the right part of the lane to play, even when you're bowling on harder patterns, sometimes it's okay to say, if you don't really have a look, go to a part of the lane that you're comfortable with. You can make good shots, and you may not average a ton, but sometimes that's better than being in a part of the lane that you're totally uncomfortable with, because you're just not confident you're going to make a good shot from there.
All right, so let's throw a shot and see what we're looking at.
Yeah, let's do that. So, I've said in other videos where I feel confident about getting 9. This is not one of those times right now.
That's not uncommon, by the way. Sometimes when the pattern's really hard, your first game's gonna be iffy.
So I
do that all the time.
I'm gonna kind of do what we talked about. I'm gonna play to my strengths. It's not necessarily the right part of the lane to play. I'm gonna be throwing a hammer web. It's one of my favorite balls. It's controlled. It's got about 2,000 on it, and I'm kind of hope and pray here.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm not too confident, but I'm gonna hope I start making good shots, and then figuring it out as I go. Look, about 18 to 10. All
right.
Okay, so that was okay.
So what about that 7-pin? Does that tell you anything?
It just tells me that the ball isn't slowing down very well, and that it's not getting into, we like to call the roll phase. Like, it's not reading the lane properly. It's coming behind the head pin. If I would have missed another board right, probably would have 2-8-10. And if I probably missed 2 boards in, probably would have big 4.
So are you moving right? Are you slowing your ball speed down? Or are you getting softer with your hand?
You're
changing balls.
Honestly, I'll take that pocket hit.
Yes.
10 times a game.
Yes.
And if I shoot 2-0, I'm pretty happy with that. And I think I could get that pin to fall a couple times just by throwing a little bit better shot.
And that's the difference in the mindset between a harder pattern and an easier pattern. If you just threw that shot on an easier pattern, you're thinking ball changing all day because you don't have time to shoot 210. But on this hard pattern, heck, that's not a bad result.
Hey, I can pick that 7 pin.
Yeah.
Like, I can't pick the 2-8-10. So, all right, Bradley.
All right, so in general, what I like to do when they're a little bit harder is I like to be a little softer with my hand. At some point in time, revolutions and power can be a great thing, but right now, control is the only thing I'm worried about. If I leave some 10 pins and 7 pins because there's a lack of power, that's okay to me because I know I'm getting the ball on line. That's all that matters.
Right. So we're throwing this.
So I'm actually going to play.
Supersonic.
Yep.
This is your controllable ball.
Yep. And I know the ball's going to want to go left off the pattern, so my roll is going to be forward, going down the lane.
All right, I'm calling 2-8-10 here.
Okay. little stiff there. so my idea was my angles need to be a little bit more open than that. That was a little left.
But even though that shows that how flat the pattern is, because you missed left.
Yeah.
I think it's going Brooklyn.
Left. You know, and honestly, when they're that hard, Brooklyn's not bad.
No, you'll take that too.
I'm gonna throw one more.
One more? See, now he wants a redemption shot.
Ah. So that was a little bit more like it. It's St. Charles, so the tin fell, but that would have been a plaque tin normally, and I'm okay with that. You know, whatever.
And honestly, that was not bad, because I thought you missed a little right or something, and it slowed down. So that's good ball reaction.
All right, so that is it for the 39-foot Beijing pattern. The one thing we took away from it is they are hard. Expect lower scores, expect control over everything else. The balls, the hand positions, just think control, and you'll be happy at the result.
Yep, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram. Check out our merch, Inside Bowling, our Patreon. All the links are in the description below. See you guys later.